Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. I want to begin tonight by going back to yesterday's budget speech by President Joe Biden. You may recall that on 8 separate occasions, Mr. Biden referred to pay their fair share. He just kept repeating it. I guess some left-wing pollster probably told him that it'll play well in progressive precincts. Now, as you may have guessed, this performance and its content got under my skin. He's always blaming businesses, and he's always blaming wealthy, successful individuals. I'm sick of it. And in fact, I want to say it is a lie. And in fact, it's the big lie. It's not just a question here of cognitive dissonance. Just like any left-wing propagandist, if you say something enough, it might become true. Again, this goes way beyond any cognitive dissonance. It is simply a big lie, and I'm quite tired of it. Let's look at some facts here. This is from the IRS, the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation, CBO, Joint Tax Committee, and so forth. First up, the United States has the most progressive tax system in the world. That, according to an OECD study done several years ago. Progressive. Progressive means the upper end pays far more than the low end. So let me give you some facts. According to the IRS data from 2018, it's the most recent numbers available, the top 1% of American taxpayers paid $616 billion, which is 40% of all the income taxes paid. Okay, let's just stop right there. The top 1% pays 40% of the income taxes. And here's one addendum to that factoid. The top 1% earned only 21% of the income, but paid 40% of the income tax. I mean, one could say that's twice their fair share. But there's more. The entire bottom half of taxpayers who earned 11.6% of income, they paid a tiny 2.9% of the income tax. So they're underpaying, I suppose. But the key point is the top end is paying more than their fair share, and these are IRS factoids. Now, some more facts about this. 6 in 10 households receive more in direct government benefits than they pay in federal taxes. Another fact, over 53 million low and middle income folks pay no income taxes because of the refundable tax credits, which are effectively just a form of federal spending through the tax code. Another fact, according to CBO data for 2017, the latest, the lowest quintile of the income groups actually had a negative 10.9% income tax, a negative tax. The second lowest had a negative tax of 1%. That means simply they received more benefits from the government than they paid in taxes. I mean, if that isn't progressive, I don't know what is. Again, we have a more progressive tax system in this country than all those so-called socialist systems in Europe. And the idea that the top earners don't pay their fair share, propagated by Mr. Biden time and time again yesterday, I'm sorry, it's a big lie. It is a big lie based on facts. Now, here's some more facts. The U.S. tax system is essentially dependent on American business. American business pays or remits 93% of the nation's taxes. Now, of course, you understand, companies and corporations don't pay taxes. People pay taxes. But the system is run through our great businesses, which Biden attacks time and time again. Now, as far as the Trump tax cuts, and Biden charging that they created these big deficits I talked about yesterday, the CBO's latest estimates show that corporate tax revenue projected by the CBO is now estimated to match the pre-tax cut level by 2023, 2 years from now. In other words, right on schedule. We always knew this. There's an initial dip in revenues and an initial rise in the deficit from the tax cut. But then as the tax cut generates new incentives for faster growth, lower unemployment, and higher wages, then the revenues catch up quickly. That is, they pay for themselves. By the way, tax avoidance also declines. So, in this story, there might have been a slight delay in the revenue estimates because of the pandemic shutdown of the economy. But in 2021, the recovery in corporate profits and corporate taxes is back on schedule. We're having a roaring recovery. And this, of course, is something President Biden will not tell you. He wants to blame business don't pay taxes. They don't pay their fair share of taxes. Nonsense. It's part of the big lie. And I will say to you, no matter how many times he and his allies repeat this mantra, pay your fair share, that is never going to square with these very inconvenient facts. What Biden did yesterday was pure left-wing, progressive, woke propaganda. And I'll add to this, his agenda is totally transparent. He wants a whole new generation of big spending welfare plans. And he wants them financed by taxing successful earners and businesses. It's nothing but wealth and income redistribution. That's all it is, redistribution. He has no interest in economic growth. Their own estimates from the OMB budget shows growth stagnation less than 2% in the out years. Now, he and his people know full well that study after study shows raising the corporate tax will lower wages, will depress the economy. Indeed, 70% of the economic consequences of a corporate tax hike will fall on the blue-collar middle class. That's the backbone of the economy. That's the backbone of our workforce. And so signaling out small businesses for even more tax penalties as an effort to crush the heartbeat of the American economy makes no sense at all. But there's more here. His welfare plans. He's talking about 12 weeks of paid family leave. That, by the way, would cost a cool $500 billion, by the way, and maybe more than that, because I think it's been underscored. Then they want to increase subsidies for dependent care, increase subsidies for child care, ever more monthly payments for the child tax credit, which is just a refundable tax credit. Again, it's just putting cash in their pockets. Boosting Medicare, boosting Medicaid, boosting Obamacare. All these European-style entitlements will move us further down the road to serfdom. There are no work requirements. This is complete government dependency. And this strikes at the heart of America's social fabric. In many ways, this non-work or even anti-work welfare dependency is even worse than raising taxes. I say that as a supply-sider. It's not because of deficits and debt, which at these levels raise my eyebrows, but because of the transformation of the culture that the Biden woke left wants to undermine free enterprise capitalist work and put big government socialism in the driver's seat. It's a triumph of woke overwork. And in our nation's social and economic history, this really is Armageddon. It really is. But of course, for me, the solution is very simple. Save America, kill the bill. That's right. Save America, kill the bill. All right? That's my riff this evening.